Welcome everybody to this Samhain presentation, 4 Steps to a More Creative Life. I've been running a presentation for every major festival. So you're probably aware of the solstices and equinoxes, but halfway between those festivals, there are what are called the 4 fire festivals. And the first one is on sort of around February 1st. It's called Imbolc. And the second one is now called May Day. So it's around the beginning of May, called Beltane. The third one is around the beginning of August. It's called Lammas. And this one we know as Halloween, but in pagan traditions, it's known as, well, it's spelt Samhain, but is actually pronounced Samhain. Originally, this was a presentation for entrepreneurs who want to be more creative, and it was delivered to a group of entrepreneurs. But I realized that for this presentation, not everybody is going to be an entrepreneur. So, but it still has the original slide in it, because I just love this guy's stand, that as creative beings, it doesn't really matter, how much resources that we have, is that we can always find some way of expressing our creativity. And I just love this guy's pop-up art stand, which was probably the most economical way that he could find of displaying his art in a way that suits his art in a very creative way. And I love the energy of this picture. Because I realize I'm going to have a much more mixed audience, I called it 4 Steps to Living or to a More Creative Life. Because creativity isn't just about our business or being an artist. We can be creative in every moment of our lives. We can actually live creatively, whether we're working or whether we're doing the washing up. But first of all, we need to know what it is that we really, really want. Write down the top 3 things that you want that just come off the top of your head. And these could be specific things. They could be items, they could be money goals, or they could be your values or an experience or something that you really, really want out of life, something that is really important to you, meaningful to you. So I'm going to go through 4 steps that I have been through myself and have been working with for quite a long time in terms of how to live a more creative life myself. And these are the 4 steps that I've sort of boiled it down to, if you like. First of all, you need to know yourself. And then you need to know how to work, rest, and play. And then thirdly, you need to know how to retreat. And fourthly, you need to know how to shine. In terms of, what you want and those steps, it's about how are you going to get there? Mainly what I believe is that we need certain skills to get there. And in a way, that's what this presentation is all about. That within those 4 steps, I have outlined 6 fundamental skills that I have used, that I have pinpointed as being the key skills in order to live more creatively. So we're going to go through each one individually. We start with step 1, know thyself. So you've probably all seen this expression that gets put on Facebook all the time. Just be yourself because everyone else is taken. And one of the things that I see, particularly in the entrepreneurial world, but really it permeates through all of life, that people sort of like are trying to mimic other people. They're trying to be like someone else. Now, I'm not saying that it's not a good idea to go, oh, I like what they're doing. Yeah, I think I might try that for myself. That's something different if you're playing with ideas. But, you know, we've all seen it, the sort of celebrity culture and, oh, I'm going to be just like, I don't know, Kim Kardashian or whatever. And it doesn't work. It's only when we can actually be our true, genuine self that we are going to be able to live a creative life. And the first skill that I've identified that you really, really need is positivity. Now, there's lots of things I could say about this, but the one that's really popping into my mind right now is about not engaging in what I call negative unity. So, you know how when you sat with a group of friends or colleagues or whatever, and there's, oh, you know, I'm so fed up with this, or isn't that awful? Isn't that terrible? And I think that's really bad. And everybody goes, oh, I agree. It's awful. It's shocking. And did you hear this? And da, 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 da. And everybody goes around the circle and everybody shares, you know, how terrible it is. And basically you leave and you're like, oh, isn't it? Oh, it feels great. You know, we all felt the same. And we all felt, you know, like just feels so good, that sort of unitive experience. But it was based in something quite negative. You know, it's not very often that you hear people say, oh, you know, isn't that amazing that that happened? And everybody goes, well, I know, it's fantastic. And yet that is positive unity, when we all come together with something positive to share. But that sense of negative unity is not something that we just do amongst our friends and our colleagues. We can do it in our own heads, where, you know, that we've got that little conversation going on in our head, and part of us goes, well, you're pretty rubbish at that, weren't you? Yeah, I know, I really messed up on that one. Yeah, well, you know, what are you going to do about it? Oh, well, I don't know. You know, and it's that spiraling down of negative talk that we can get into in any situation, whether it's in our head or whether it's in a group or whether we're watching something on television and somebody's being negative. We go, oh, I totally agree with you, you know, type of thing. And I hear myself do it in like really simple little ways. Like we went for a walk today and I saw somebody had put their dog poo bag in a little crook of the tree. And immediately I went, oh, honestly, even that is like negative in a way, you know, that it's a sort of blur type of feeling to our energy. And what I've discovered since I've been working with not being negative is that it becomes ever more subtle. It's like you start to feel the shift in energy in yourself, from when you feel like, yay, great, and everything, you know, like you feel really happy and everything's great and it's a beautiful day, even if it's pissing down with rain, to when you criticize something and suddenly you just go bleh, like this, and you can just feel your energy drop. So this is a real skill to develop positivity all the time. And I'll probably mention this again, but you know, we all know that in the law of attraction, we're just going to attract the energy, the vibration, the frequency of where we're at. So as soon as you feel that sort of bleh, negative feeling, Esther Hicks says you've got 17 seconds to turn it around. You've got 17 seconds to catch it and go, oh, that was negative. Okay, turn it around quick. And we've heard this expression a lot of the time, but do what you love to do. You know, what is it that you love? You know, that's another thing. You know, write down your top 3 things that you absolutely love. You just feel like this incredible magnetic attraction to. You can't not have it in your life, or not do it, or not be aware of it, because you just resonate with it so strongly. And it's so important we have those things in our life a lot of the time, at least the significant chunks every day. You know, I believe, especially through, you know, being an astrologer, that we're here to express what it is we love. And in a way, that is so much about knowing ourselves. What is it I love? What is it that I love to do? Because for me, that is what we're here for, to do what we love to do, because we usually be pretty good at it too. So step 2, work, rest, and play. So I call this, Norma and I did a podcast recently. It was actually my first podcast that I did with someone else, and it's in YouTube, and we called it the 40-60 rule, where, especially if you're working, if you're an entrepreneur, and I know that some of you are, is where you diarize only 40% of your time. So you know you've got specific things to do, and you put that in your 40%. So, you know, I might have a couple of things a day that are going to take a couple of hours, and those are in my diary and they are timed. And the rest of the day, especially your working day, 60%, you want to have it so that it's open, so that it's available for whatever comes up. And, you know, Norma, she works with care home managers, and she says, you know, you don't know who's going to walk through that door, and that you need to be available to go and meet them, to show them around, to have a chat with them, or you need to be available for an unexpected emergency. But most of us entrepreneurs, you know, that may not be what it is that we're doing. However, we still, you know, if you're when in that 60%, so for me, what I do is I'll go, okay, so I've got the rest of the day free until, you know, 4 o'clock or whatever, when I've got my next appointment. And I go, what is the best thing for me to do now? Now, I always have a list of things that need doing. I don't necessarily look at that list. I know the list, but I'll just say, what is the best thing for me to do now? And it could be something on that list, or it could just be go for a walk, read your book. I've had it quite a lot recently where it's just been read your book. And I'm like, what? Really? Read my book? But I've got all these jobs to do. Just read your book. A novel, you know, light entertainment. And I'll read it. I never usually get more than about 20 minutes before it's like, okay, now you're ready to do the next job on the list. Now you're ready to do this. And it does take a lot of trust in order to do that, in order to know that that list will get done. And some things on the list don't get done for a really long time, but it may be that they don't need to be done. They're not urgent things. And other things that are like really urgent, I'll go, yeah, but I know those are urgent. Yep. Okay. We know those are urgent, but there's still the right moment to do them in. And what I've come to learn is it's almost like when you can let yourself go into that 60% of your time, that it's like suddenly it's like you're in the right energy vortex. So, you know, obviously an astrologer, you know, everything's moving all the time. It's always moving. And so for me, it's almost like it goes clunk, and I'm like, ah, and it's like I feel it, and I'm like, ah, okay, now is the right time to do that piece of work. And it's a really amazing way of doing bits of work that you don't really want to do, that you keep putting off because maybe you think you can't do them very well, or you don't like doing them, or you think they're going to take you a long time. And it's weird because when you actually get into that vortex space, it's like, oh yeah, sure, I'll do that now. And usually feel pretty good about it. And often it gets done really quickly. So that's my little tip there about how to work with your diary. For me, what they call now time blocking or time chunking, where you do like, you know, an hour and a half and then you have a 5-minute break and you know, whatever. For me, that doesn't work. I know it does work really well for a lot of people. This is an alternative method that you might like to try. And what I've discovered is that through working in this way, that I have I've been really working with the skill of freedom. Now, I know that the vast majority of people who are interested in what I do and who come on these presentations, who come on my courses, who have readings with me, I know that for the vast majority, freedom is one of their top 3 values. And what I've discovered is that time, linear clock time, is one of the ways that our freedom is restricted very profoundly. And yet it's so like ingrained in us to work with clock time. You know, we've been doing it ever since we first went to school with school alarm bells and things like that, that we don't tend to really think about it. And yet, when you can step outside of time, you experience a freedom that we haven't experienced since we were really little. You know, before we became aware of clocks and times. The next thing that I highly recommend that you do is learn to play. And what I mean by play is, you know, like what small children do, you know, like when they paint themselves all over with bright colors and they just like, you know, paint themselves. You know, you could do it with makeup or whatever. But it's that they freestyling. You know, when you watch children play and you could just give them some mud and some sticks and they're accessing stories from their imaginal realm, and then they're translating them into the mud and the sticks, and, you know, they're creating or they're drawing or they're, you know, whatever. And it's like they're translating what I see as the spiritual realm or the imaginal realm into material reality. And that is the fundamental thing about creativity, is how to draw that information from the spiritual or imaginal realm into physical manifestation. Getting into that zone of play, you know, just get yourself some paper and some crayons or some mud or whatever it is that you feel drawn to. No judgment, no thinking. That's not what kids do. They don't have like a thing that goes, oh, that's a load of rubbish. They just play. I'm going to tell you a little story. When I first started doing my art degree and I was in my late 40s, it was 4 years I was there for. And within 2 or 3 weeks of starting, we were doing printing. My little boy was off sick from school. He wasn't really sick, but he didn't want to go to school. And he was like 5 or something. And I thought, I don't want to miss my art class. So I took him along with me. And we were doing this very simple technique. You literally roll paint over a sheet of glass, put a piece of paper on top of it, and then we had some bottles to draw on the paper. Of course, I was trying to do them really accurately, and I was getting so frustrated because it was so rubbish. And I was watching my little boy do it. And of course, he was 5, you know, and he was just like this. And he pick up his piece of paper and I'll go, whoa, that looks really good. And then I realized that he was playing and I was trying to be perfect. And that actually through playing, he was getting a much more pleasing result. So after that, I was, thank goodness I took him in that day, because I spent the next 4 years playing and it was amazing. So step 3 is about retreat. So what do I mean? I don't mean necessarily going on retreat. I mean taking space to retreat, really ideally every day or every couple of days. And there's lots of ways you can do this. You can do this through meditation. And one of the things that came up for me recently was about how useful mandalas are in order to meditate. How, just by resting our eyes, soft focusing our eyes on a mandala like this, it brings us into a more settled space. It helps us sort of, gather in all those disparate like this that's going on and just bring it all into a more settled space. And one of the things I've really come to appreciate about working online and having a phone and working everything digitally is that mandalas with the the digital light behind them are just so much more mesmerizing. It sort of brings them to life. It's a beautiful thing. Regular meditation every day, 20 minutes or so, where you just sit and follow your breath or use a mantra or whatever works for you. And remember that even the Dalai Lama can't hold his focus for more than 2.5 breaths. That meditation is not about not thinking about anything for 20 minutes. Meditation is about, as soon as you know your mind has wanders, that you bring it back, because the aim of meditation is that your higher mind is in control of your lower mind. So your higher mind says, we're not thinking about this now, come back, just focus on your breath or whatever it is that you're using to meditate. And another thing that I think is really, really important that I use all the time is to go into nature, somewhere where you can only hear natural sounds, or where, like, road noise is so far off in the distance that the sounds of nature are the ones that predominate. And, listen to the birds, listen to the wind in the leaves, go and listen to running water. I was out today and I was listening to the waves. I'm in North Wales, near the sea. I was just listening to the waves. And then we were walking along this path and I was listening to the sycamore leaves and the trees. And I was like, whoa, you can really hear it's autumn, because they have more of a crunchy sound in the autumn. And just to listen to nature, rather than listening to what's going on in your head. This is what we want to practice. This is what we want to develop, is finding ways to not just be listening to what's going on in our head, but to listen to beyond, to listen to something else, because that is where the creative ideas come from. They don't come from your head. Einstein said this: I never came up with anything new from my thinking mind. They all came from my imaginal realm. But we're not going to hear our imaginal realm unless we give ourselves an opportunity to not be listening to our minds. So for me, meditation and being out in nature listening are the easiest ways. Obviously, there's other ways. Listening to music is a fabulous way as well. The next skill sort of ties in with that, which is about having a sense of wonder, having a sense of awe. We know when children see something that's amazing and they go, oh, wow, look at that. It's not very often you hear adults do that. And we can do it with all sorts of things. I'm mad about wildflowers. I'm absolutely potty about them. And, we were on our little walk today and the red campion was popping out at me, and the little crane's bills were popping out at me. And I was like, wow, look at you. Just that pink, just like this. And in fact, they're still flowering at this time of year. And I was just like, oh, wow, I just love you so much. The pink is just so beautiful. So it's about finding something that gives you that sense of, oh, wow, I love that. It's that sense of wonder. Because, again, it immediately, it just opens us up to beauty, to magic, to marvelous things. And talking about beauty, I read long time ago, 30 years ago or something, that there were certain tribes in America, Native American tribes, who had two paths to sort of what we might call enlightenment. And one was the path of gratitude, and the other was the path of beauty. And I thought, okay, I'm going to have a go at this. I'm going to choose the path of beauty, because I was a bit of an artist and I like wildflowers and things. And there's something about connecting with beauty. And I know that you've all had this experience, how it just gives you that lift. It makes your heart feel good. And what I would like to suggest to you is that you look for it deliberately all the time, so that, anything. So, I just love this little picture, this little image. And because now we've all got so used to looking at things digitally, we've actually started to see digital images as if they were real. So I can look at that lily and I can see the real lily, and I can just go, wow, that is so beautiful. And if you can have that experience several times a day, you'll notice that your life sort of just increases in quality a lot. And that, honestly, there's beauty in everything. I've even tried it with rubbish, with litter lying on the street. And I have a spiritual teacher who claims that, we can even do it with dog poo. So you can find beauty in anything. And magic, I already mentioned that word. Things that seem almost like they're impossible. For me, I love bubbles. I just love them. And, they're so transient, and the colors are so surreal. And the fact, this membrane just stays intact for so long. For me, they are like pure magic. And I've got bubbles sitting in my van, and every now and again I'll get out and I'll just wave some bubbles, because I just want the experience, ethereal quality about them, which I absolutely adore. And it gives me a lift. It makes me feel like the world is more magical, like the world, and I'm creating something. It's just bubbles. So it'll be something different for you. And I highly encourage you to find it and to make sure you have that experience a lot. For me, this skill sort of brings in a sort of transcendental quality. When we really connect with something beautiful, a new baby, I'm like, wow, just so perfect, aren't they? They're just so divine. And it gives us a transcendent quality when we spend time with something beautiful or something magical. The only way I can put it is it gives us a more transcendent quality, which enables us to then be in a realm where we are able to access more creative ideas. And I'm out and about. Obviously, you can't be looking at the sky while you're walking along, but to stop and just look up every now and again. There's something about the expansiveness of the sky. The fact that there's an infinite space. It just goes on and on and on. And if it's a beautiful day, that blue, when it hits your eyeballs, I think that blue that we get in the sky is so healing. And for me, looking up at the night sky, I was at camp recently, and there was a guy with his telescope showing us Saturn and Jupiter. And, you know, it's really something to see Saturn and see the rings around Saturn. And I saw, you know, all the moons of Jupiter. But then he showed me Andromeda, the galaxy Andromeda. And he said that is 2,500 million light years away, or even billion, I can't remember, light years away. That's 2,500 million years that the light took to get from that galaxy to my eyes. And that sense that when we look up at the night sky, that we are reaching back in time, you know, that we're actually moving into a completely other dimension, another reality, the infiniteness, the expansiveness of the sky, and the blue and the light from the stars and the moon. I highly recommend you spend more time looking up. And also looking far, like finding places where you can see an horizon. That's difficult to say. A horizon, an horizon that is really a long way away, because it enables our eyes to relax. You know, we're usually so focused on what is near to us, or you know what's 200 meters down the road while we're driving. It's not very often that we actually allow our eyes to rest, allow the muscles in our eyes to rest, and to soft focus, and to just see as far as we can see. And creativity, you know, a lot of it is about what we can see. And yeah, there's something about that. There's something about allowing our eyes to see a very, very big expanse of space in front of us. And that brings up the next skill, which is all about light. So, you know, we're looking up at the moon, or we're looking up at the sky, and we're looking at horizons. And as we're doing this, we are opening our, my brain's gone, you know, the little black bit in the middle, to allowing more light in. Now, we've all been so conditioned that light, especially light from the sun, is bad for us and that it's dangerous. But if you think about it, we are beings of light. We are emitting light. I went to that TCCHE conference recently, which was all scientists talking about spirituality. And one of them, really big name, stood on that stage and said many times over, we are light beings, and we need to absorb light. In the same way that plants need light, we need light. And it's got to be natural light, not artificial light. And as far as I'm concerned, it needs to be light that is not filtered by glasses, particularly sunglasses, because what they do is they actually block the light. Obviously, that's what you're wearing them for. But it means that we're not, you know, our eyes, you know, they're the most sensitive place to take in light. And also, it's our pineal gland in the middle of our head, you know, what is our third eye. It produces melatonin, which is all about light. Melatonin is governed by light, daylight or nighttime. And so it's so important that we allow ourselves to absorb light. Now, I've been practicing for quite a few years now at what level the sun in the sky, that I can actually stare at the sun and it not be a problem. At this time of year, you can easily stare at the sun at 5 o'clock in the evening. But you know, when that point when it's just setting and it's really orange, that's not harmful to stare at that. And there's something about the light of the sun. It's not like any other light. There's something really special about it. And I'm going to show you some other demonstrations. It's the same with the fire or a candle, the flame, the light. It's completely different to other forms of light. It literally is like a living being. You know how when people talk about that when you die and you see this light, and that people, come back and said there was just this light. Well, I've had one of those experiences where I've seen that light, and the nearest I've seen to it is sunlight. When you stare directly at the sun. So even when it's like, this much above the horizon, sorry, I've got my hands, but, a couple of 2 or 3 hours before it sets, if you look at it through some tree branches, so you're not seeing the whole disk of the sun, you're seeing it broken up a little bit, and you stare at that light and you just allow it to come into your eyeballs, there's a quality about that light, the sunlight, that you don't see anywhere else. The nearest you can come is a candle flame or a fire. And of course, fires are amazing, for seeing pictures in and just getting lost in and just daydreaming, something not many of us do nowadays. And yeah, and I've already spoken about the light from the sky, that blue. There's something about that blueness that is so healing, in the same way that, when we go into woods and we absorb the green is meant to be one of the most healing colors there is. So it's just about allowing ourselves to really absorb these vast expanses of one color. And then step 4 is to shine. So what do I mean by that? Well, first of all, celebrate everything, every little thing. I made a really nice dinner tonight. I was like, and we all went, this is a really nice dinner. We celebrated it. Celebrate everything, because that makes us feel good. It really does. The more I thought about these practices, and the more I thought about, like, if everybody did these things, if everybody celebrated every little thing, if everybody saw beauty just all around them, we wouldn't have people rushing off to go, retail therapy, or needing to go halfway around the world to see something beautiful, because it would be all around us. And, we wouldn't need to go very far. We'd be happy where we are. And so much about living a creative lifestyle is about being happy in who you are and where you are. And having fun. It's like, we got down to the beach today, freezing cold. I'm not standing on a sandy beach that has quite a long length along it, and not taking my boots and socks off and walking along the water's edge. It's like, I don't care. I have to dry my feet off afterwards and rub all the sand off and everything. This is fun. Going, like, you're watching kids and their wellies and they're stumping through puddles. It's so much, just little things that we do for fun, and that you just go, oh, I love doing this. This is great. Make sure that we have lots of those experiences. We get too serious as adults. And finally, the last skill is, no, it might not be the last skill, sorry. This skill of love, like just loving what we do. It all has to start with loving ourselves, which then goes right back to knowing yourself and knowing what you love to do and knowing what gives you pleasure. Because the more that we put ourselves in this place of beauty and gratitude and having fun just in everyday little things, and losing ourselves in time, then the more we come to love our lives, and the more we come, and the more positive we become, the more we come to just love ourselves. And the biggest skill I have ever learned, the biggest thing, is smiling. So it was just before we went into lockdown. I think it was during February 2020. And I was looking for, I don't know why, I was trying to give myself a test for the month or whatever, a challenge for the month. And I came up with this idea to smile from when I woke up in the morning until when I went to bed at night for the whole month. Didn't matter if I was with anybody or not. It changed my life. Because when we smile, even if we don't feel like it, just putting the corners of our mouths up says to our brain, she's happy, send down happy hormones. And immediately we do feel better because we're being flooded with happy hormones. When we're sort of like, oh, like this, then our brain goes, oh, she's not doing very well. Give her some cortisol, that'll keep her going. That'll give her some adrenaline, like she's not had a coffee, give her some, some stress hormones that'll keep her going. And if there's one thing that we cannot be creative when we are under stress hormones, because those are fight, flight, freeze, fear. Those are survival hormones. They're not interested in creativity. So if you, as soon as you smile, as soon as you stick your corners of your mouth up, then immediately you've got happy hormones flooding you and you feel better and you feel like, hey, yeah, come on, let's go and do something. Let's go and have some fun, or let's go and make something nice, or let's go, just go and enjoy what I'm doing. So that is a really top number one suggestion. And connect. So I was in London recently, as some of you know, and I had quite a few hours to kill before my bus back up to Manchester. And I decided already quite a few days beforehand that I was going to find a cinema somewhere showing The Escaper. I really wanted to go and see this film. So universe, lovely, thank you very much. I was on the way on the bus, saw the cinema, Escaper, got off the bus, and discovered it was on, an hour and a half later or whatever. So I thought, okay, that's cool. I'll get something to eat, sit on a bench in the street. It was really busy street, shopping street. And I'll just, chill, do some work on my phone or whatever while I'm waiting for the film to start. So I was sat on a bench and there was a phone shop up me and I really needed to charge my phone. And I went in, I said, oh, is there any chance I could charge my phone? He said, outside there's a pillar thing. And I'd never seen them before in London, but you got like these stands in the street. It's got a map on it and it's got a charging point where you can charge your phone. And there was a bench right next to it. So I thought, awesome. I'm just going to stand here, charge my phone, do a bit of work. And first of all, this homeless guy came past me, big beam on his face. He said, hey, love, somebody gave me this cup of tea, but I don't want it. Do you want it? And I was like, whoa, I was just saying to myself, I really needed a cup of tea. Thought it was from a homeless guy. And then, oh, for goodness sake, come on, it comes from McDonald's. And I said, you got milk in it? He said, no. Do you want milk? I said, no. So I took the cup of tea and it made his day. It was just such a lovely connection. And then I was standing there, charging my phone. And then this other homeless guy comes up to me and he said, I'm really sorry. I'm not hassling you. I'm not bothering you. I don't want, please don't, forgive me. How much longer do you think you'll be charging your phone? And I said, oh, yeah, about 5 minutes. He said, great. I'll just sit on the bench and I'll wait for you. I said, cool. So 5 minutes later, I sat on the bench. And we ended up having a conversation for like 45 minutes or something. Really lovely conversation. He was from Senegal. He was telling me all about it and telling me pictures and things. And it made me realize, like most people in London are like this. They don't see anybody. They don't connect. They don't make eye contact with anybody. And when we drop our fear of actually reaching out and connecting with people, oh, it just gives us such, honestly, in all my years, I can't even remember somebody who wasn't nice. I really truly believe that everybody is kind and generous and wants to connect and wants to be friendly. And that, you know, if we use our smiles and just make eye contact with people and connect with people, that this is how it just makes us feel better. And it gives us ideas, and sometimes it gives us like really good friends. I walked past somebody, you know, not necessarily in the street, but you know, at a festival or whatever, and gone, oh, hello, and we connected and we become lifelong friends. In fact, the friend I'm staying with here, that is exactly what happened at a festival. And you know, and this is how we create networks, and particularly if we are entrepreneurs and we're wanting to develop networks, we're wanting to reach out to more people, we're wanting to have more connections, we want more friends. You know, we're not meant to live on our own. We're meant to live as a tribe. And so I highly recommend just, you know, letting down some of your barriers to actually connecting with other people. And I'm pretty certain that most of you on here are not like that. But, you know, for people who are listening, or, you know, who feel a bit like, oh no, you know, a bit afraid, oh no, you know, not quite sure, you know, take a little risk and just give somebody a smile and see what happens. It is incredible. The connections that you can actually make with people and make their day. And you know, and it's that, I've forgotten, it's got a special name where they then pass it on to somebody else, and etc., and it just spreads like ripples on a pond. So we've been through 4 steps to living a more creative life, but knowing yourself more. So remember about being much more positive, knowing what it is that you want, and knowing what it is that you love, and making sure that you put those in every day, even if it's just a half-hour walk in nature, because that's particularly what I love to do. Work, rest, and play. So doing your best to drop clock time, not necessarily all day. So I forgot to say that what I do is in my diarized time, where I have like 2 or 3 appointments, I will set my alarm and I'll give myself enough time to get ready, and then I will put it away and I will forget about time. It's what I've noticed is that even if I've just got half an hour between appointments, if I set the alarm for the next one and just put it away, that I can still get lost in that half an hour. Sometimes it feels like 2 minutes. Sometimes I'm like, really? I must have forgotten to put my alarm on. This is going on and on and on. And yeah, time becomes very, very creative when you're not looking at it. And it enables us, you know, by always asking, what's the best thing to do now? What's the best thing to do now? It means that sometimes we'll be given work to do. Sometimes we'll just be told to rest. Just rest. I just start resting and I wait until it's like, okay, now you're ready to do this. Could be 5 minutes, could be half an hour, could be an hour. Sometimes it could be all afternoon. It's rare. And then listen for when it's like, no, go and have some fun now. Go and do something fun. So I love, you know, that mixing it up, mixing our days up so that we're always aligned with what's the best thing to do now. Remember to take some alone time. One of the things I have noticed is, for example, people will say to me, oh yes, I'm always going out for walks. Or I take the dog for a walk, or I go for a run, or I go for a cycle ride, or I go with my best friend. None of those things are the same as truly being quiet in yourself and not having to think about anything else. So it's so important that we have that retreat time, definitely every day, if not 2 or 3 times a day. because it's when we're able to be quiet on our own, that is when the best ideas come. And remember to shine, remember to celebrate, remember to smile, and remember to connect with people. It's all about connection. That is, we're social animals. We need to connect with people. We need to have that good feeling that we get when we connect with somebody. And one thing I noticed many years ago, if you can get somebody onto what is it they love, if you can get somebody to talk about their passion. So my friend's boyfriend here, he was talking about a piece of woodwork he's made, and just the change in the tone of his voice, I thought, oh my goodness, this guy is a master carpenter, an artist with wood. And then he revealed he'd been doing it since he was 13. I was like, whoa, I would like to see that. I would like to know more about that. When we get people onto whatever it is that really inspires them, even if it's train watching, it can be something you know nothing about, but just the way that they talk about it, you go, can just get off on the way they talk about it. I can just get off on their passion, even if I know nothing about it. So yeah, getting people to talk about what it is that they love is a really nice way of getting into that more creative zone. So these are the 6 skills that we went through. Really keeping track of our minds and what comes out of our mouths, and the way we feel. Keep it positive, keep it positive. That sense of freedom, always looking at, what's holding me back? And and especially the unconscious ones like time. What's preventing me from really expressing as much freedom as I can? Wonder, being in awe of things. Wow, look at that, that's amazing. Make sure you have a few of those every day. Transcending, and by that I mean, beyond, our 4 walls or at the limit of where we're looking, but to really see beyond, and see beyond this earthly plane, and know that we're just this speck in this vast universe, transcending beyond this very limited perception that we have of life. Light, making sure that you're getting like loads of light coming in, and just enjoying light, even if it's just a candle flame. And love, experiencing love, getting those love hormones, all that oxytocin, and connect, smiling with people, and having that, like this, if you never see them again, you never speak to them again, it doesn't matter, you've shared a little bit of love. And I've got one bonus tip: get a hat, get ahead. You don't have to wear a hat, but there's something about wearing a hat. It's very protective. I feel safer when I'm wearing a hat because I've not got all my crown chakra like open, to the whole, every Tom, Dick, and Harry that's going around. If you are an entrepreneur or an artist or a creative, or it's like you're not like working for a boss, if you're needing to attract people to you, a hat is actually an amazing way of being noticed, because hardly anybody wears them. A woman I met recently, she said, I always wear a hat when I'm on stage. She said, because it puts me into a different zone. It puts me into a different persona. And that is really true as well. It's like you can play with different personas with a hat, be it, different characters. You can express different bits of yourself, which is a really creative thing to do. It's a bit like being on stage and being in a costume. But it doesn't have to be a hat. It could be anything that is a bit different, that makes you stand out. and identifies to the world, hey, I'm unique. I'm a unique individual. And I was actually writing about this today. We've got one more year of Pluto in and out of Capricorn, which is what's causing all the problems at the moment. Really, really, really pushing us hard. And then we move into Aquarius. And of course, we've all been like really excited about the age of Aquarius. And I'm not saying we are moving into the age of Aquarius now, but certainly Pluto moving into Aquarius for 22 years is going to give us a flavor of what it's like to be in that more Aquarian age. And besides, AI and technology and, all the, things that people are talking about, Aquarius is somebody I heard on this particular stage, TCCHE, I heard someone say the expression radical uniqueness. Now, Aquarius is very much about groups. It's about coming together as groups, but it's not in the way that like communism is, or, like schools and everybody's in uniform together. It's not that sort of groups. It's about groups of individuals, groups of unique individuals. And I like to think of it as, like in the old days when we all lived in little villages, maybe 120 people or so, and every person in the village had a skill that they contributed to the community, like the blacksmith or the shoemaker or, the basket maker or whatever. And each person, that was their uniqueness. And yet as a community, they were very, very tight knit. They were interdependent. They could not survive on their own without the community. But each individual in the community was unique. And for me, that is so much part of living a more creative life, is to express more of our uniqueness all the time. Just keep finding ways. How can I be more unique? How can I be more unique? How can I be more unique? And it's not a narcissistic thing. It's all about, how can I be more creative? How can I be more creative? Because I'm going to say the last thing here. In the words of, forgotten the name, Marianne somebody, Nelson Mandela used her quote, that it's not our darkness that we're afraid of, but our light that we are afraid of. We're afraid of showing our light. And yet when we do, and this is part of the quote, when we do show our light, we give other people permission to show theirs as well. So the more creative that we can be in our lives, so we encourage other people to be more creative in their lives. And for me, that's probably one of the best service that we can actually give to other people. For those of you who are new to me, this is my email address. If you want to get in contact with me, do get in touch and we'll have a call. So I'd like to say thank you very much, everyone, for watching this presentation. And I'll see you for the winter solstice presentation.